Hello and welcome to the first ever video on this channel. I'm feeling a little under the weather, so my voice is not going to be at its best, but I'm doing this anyway because I'm excited about what I've been working on. So with this one, I actually used a reference from Cowboy Bebop, a scene with Spike, so that I could get the movement down, and I also used a reference from Samurai Champloo for the second half where their flip occurs. This is my first time ever really trying to do an animation study, and so I wanted to go with something that I admired, and I really recognize Samurai Champloo and Cowboy Bebop as being some of the top tier anime that I watched growing up. I also like that I believe it was still all hand drawn at that time, and even though I'm doing this digitally through Procreate, I wanted to have a reference point that was from a time when animation was still done by hand, if possible, because I expect that they're going to be more economical in their use of frames, but I also really like how they render movement in the series. So I thought that using that for a reference point to build from, and then going ahead and adding my own twist to it with my own character and everything, would be a really fun way to try and learn how to make movement go from a two-dimensional still into a two-dimensional movement, because I've never really done this before. So using these references, I was really happy to throw my character Epinephrine in because he has a very similar build to Spike. And yes, that is his name. We call him Epi for short. He is my vampire OC, and he's an all-around cool dude. I love him. He's one of my favorite OCs I've ever made. But he's also very similar in build, lanky, tall, and I really liked the frenetic movement in this scene, but by this point you can tell I've gone off the rails, and this is all original stuff to me that I am drawing. I'm using Procreate with the animation assist on. When I switch over to coloring it, I am no longer using the animation assist because the onion skin effect that you see here with the lowered opacity for the different layers really helps with drawing new frames, but also does not work well for my coloring style when I get about to actually rendering. At this point, we're still doing the actual just line art. I don't think was I even using a reference? Usually I'll do like a quick sketch in a different color, like a purple or a pink or something, and then use that to go and actually do the line work. But I think for this one, I just went straight into it because that's what worked with the Spike references in the past. So here we've gotten a full rotation. So now we are moving into the actual coloring process. I have switched over from the animation assist into regular layers mode, at which point I can go in and do like the clothing and the hair and stuff on different layers, because that's what works for me in my process. Generally just going through frame by frame, adding shading. I don't know what other people prefer to do for this. I kept the clothing simple and just focused on shading the skin and the hair so that I could get the details there where I think it's important. The clothing can just be whatever. This is, again, just a quick study. I've never really messed with animation before, and I wasn't sure exactly what the process should be like beyond just my usual working process, which is going to be usually a sketch, then the line art, and then shading or rendering or coloring, whatever it's going to be for that specific project. With this one, I actually didn't even watch any informational videos really beforehand, which I kicked myself for after because I did end up watching several hours worth of different creators' footage and content around how they do their animation process or what it might look like for other studios doing animation process. Very informative, lots of great information out there all over the YouTube and other sources. So that's been really helpful. This one I just kind of went in blind because I was excited about it. I just downloaded a quick GIF to use as my initial reference and then just went for it. I believe this is maybe like the second one I actually did, because I did initially do the flip scene at the end, but still this is all very, very new to me, and this I think was like the same day too. And I don't have the original video for that one with the flip. That's based off of a scene from Samurai Champloo where Mugen does a flip, backflip, I think, based on the camera angle. Yeah. So that's the second half of this, and I just add the line art from that once it's done because that was easy. And then I ran out of space on the iPad that I used to do this and had to delete the other footage or the other file, and I just assumed like, oh, it's here, it's fine, it's all in the one. But no, it doesn't quite work like that when it comes to the actual time-lapse recording and everything. It only shows what's been done on that active canvas, so you only get the shading aspect of that one for this. I do really enjoy seeing the frames stacked on each other like that. It's really fun to see it in kind of like a trippy psychedelic overlay like that. Like, you used to get tracer effects for your mouse if you wanted to be fancy or whatever. I'm sure there are other cool effects people are using on their mouse tracker or whatever now, but I'm not hip to that shit. I don't bother with it. I've got other things on my mind to work on and worry about. So frequently throughout the process, I am going back into the animation assist mode to check in and make sure that it's moving smoothly, that it's looking the way I more or less want it to. I can also get kind of an idea of that when I stack the layers on each other, but it's not quite the same because with the animation assist mode, you can control the frames per second, and that might be a lot faster than what you can manually click through on the layers. I vary between a lower or slower frame rate in the beginning while I'm doing the initial work, and then bumping it up to a higher frame rate near the end. I believe the clips that I show at the beginning is either at a 15 or a 12 frame rate per second for the slower one that's a little bit longer, with the faster, more zippy and smooth looking one being at the 20 frames per second rate. This is something that I'm still figuring out. I had no idea where to even begin with that when I first started. Here's where we move into the actual backflip moment that's really fun. Again, that was a scene from Samurai Champloo that I originally referenced with Mugen. I feel like his face very much looks like Mugen right here, because that was the reference that I was going from, but also maybe they don't look super different with their little goatees and fluffy hair and whatnot, but here's the backflip. This is a very dynamic pose. I think both series were by the same animation studio. Let me check on that real quick. So no, they were not animated by the same studio. It's the creator, Shinichiro Watanabe-san, who created the series that is the same. But as far as the animation studios, Cowboy Bebop was animated by Studio Sunrise, and then Samurai Champloo was done by Madhouse. And then here we are after about 7 hours of active work time on this project. We have the final version. Here's the slower frame per second one. It's a little choppier feeling, I think. 12 to 15 frames per second is what we're looking at here. That was like the working rate that I went with because I did think that it would let me see the drawings more clearly, and then I could deduce how much I liked them or wanted to use that individual frame or did not want to use that individual frame. But what do you think? Do you prefer the slower frame rate or the faster frame rate, which we're going to be moving into here in just a few seconds, but I thought it was interesting to kind of reflect and see what all these hours of work actually ended up being. The loop itself is very brief. It's what, like maybe 4 or 5 seconds, and that was like 7 hours of line work, shading, coloring, all that fun stuff. So mad respect to people that do this for a living, the amount of work that must go into every production. I've always admired animation as someone who draws, but I just never really fully comprehended how tedious it could be, I suppose, and the fact that they do break it up into teams to work on different aspects of it. Chef's kiss, love that. There are certain things I do not love to render or work with, and being able to pass that off to someone else would be incredible and streamline the process so much. So now we've moved into the faster frame per second rate at the 20 frames per second, which is the same frame per second rate as Bloodborne, by the way, one of the best games I've ever played. I don't know. I'm not going to try and animate anything at 60 frames per second because that is bananas. That is bonkers. I don't think any even professional studios do that. So I'm not going to be mad at Bloodborne for not being at 60 frames per second. Come at me, boys. I know some people are going to be real pissed about that. I've heard or read that the human eye can only see about 20 frames per second, and so I'm fine with that being my kind of goal for right now as far as the animation speed. But what do y'all think? Do you prefer the slower, a little bit more choppy version, or the slightly faster 20 frame per second version? Should I bump it up faster? Would it look better at 24 frames per second? I had really no idea what the standards were for that sort of thing when I began working on this project, and so I just went off the reference that I had from professional animators and then kind of tried to build off that to add my own twist and flavor to the scene and make it my own. But I'm not sure. This is, again, one of my first studies that I've ever done with this sort of thing. I was really proud of it when I was done with it because it's really fun seeing my characters jump off the page because he's always been like a two-dimensional comic book character to me, and now he's moving. That's really fun. That's so cool. I love that. But it's been a couple weeks now, and looking back on it, I do feel like it's kind of choppy. One of my friends did say that based on the time frame that these shows were made, they weren't really meant to be viewed in HD, which could be part of the issue, but I don't know. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I will be posting more content of a similar nature to this along with my comic book, my graphic novel that I'm working on. Cheers! Adios.